Hi guys. On the subject of guns going off by themselves, somebody tells you, well, the gun just went off and didn't mean for it to happen. In case, particularly if you're kind of new to the subject of guns, guns don't just go off. They have to have something happen to them to make them go off. All guns are not exactly the same, but they all have some similarities, and one of the similarities is that they have a trigger, like you see right here. And many guns have a safety, which is this device here, and when the safety is on, the trigger cannot be pulled. When you take the safety off, you can pull the trigger. Now, for purposes of illustration and safety, I'm going to use a dummy bullet that is impossible for it to fire because it's not really a bullet. It just has a little spring inside, serves the purpose of a bullet. So when we put that in there and we put it in the chamber, in order for the gun to fire, the trigger has to be pulled, and the pull on the trigger, when you pull it this way without bringing the hammer back, it's about a 8-10 pound pull. When you pull it this way with the hammer back, it's about a 4 or 5 pound pull, but it takes between 4 or 5 to 8 or 10 pounds to pull that trigger. And otherwise the gun is not going to fire. So the idea that the gun goes off by itself is just a myth. That's just snake oil. That's just somebody's excuse because maybe they wanted to do something bad. When the factories make the guns, they do everything possible to make them safe, because if they don't make them safe, they open themselves up to lawsuits and things like that. So one thing that is safe about them is they have this safety. In this case, this is not just a safety, but it's a decocking device that after you fire a few shots and you want to decock it so that it's safer, you just pull that down and it decocks it without firing the gun. So the idea of, well, the gun just went off, that just does not hold water. It just really isn't true at all. Guns don't go off. The factories, before they send them out, they will put around in the chamber, pull the hammer back, take the safety off, pull the hammer back, and then they'll drop the gun many hundreds of times in order to make sure that the gun is not going to accidentally go off. You hear things about hair triggers and things like that. Some triggers are easier to pull than others, but the fact remains the trigger has to be pulled. The gun just does not go off by itself. Any kind of gun, rifle, shotgun, handgun. So this is just a myth that the gun just went off. That just doesn't happen. That's baloney. It's snake oil, and it's really not true. For the gun to go off, the trigger has to be pulled, like so. It was an accident. For accidents to happen, there has to be an awful lot of stupidity when accidents happen regarding firearms, because the firearms have a lot of safety things. This firearm here happens to be loaded, the safety is off, and it's cocked, and even with all the safeties off, it's awfully difficult for an accident to happen. For this hammer to go down and hit the firing pin, and for the firing pin to hit the bullet, the trigger has to be pulled. That's all there is to it. So how can an accident like that happen? The truth is, it probably wasn't an accident. Somebody just said it was an accident, and nobody refuted it, or maybe they did. When I was in high school, there was a kid same age as me, 18 years old. Him and his brother were playing in their bedroom, and probably got into a heated argument, as young boys sometimes do. And the younger one got a rifle, put a bullet in it, took the safety off, cocked the rifle, and shot and killed his brother. And it was said to be an accident, and no more was said about it, but I really don't think it was an accident. I think somebody was murdered in the heat of anger or something like that. But do accidents really happen? With firearms, accidents happen very seldom, because in order for the gun to go off, you have to pull the trigger. And that's the simple facts of it. So you have to ask yourself, was it really an accident, or did somebody just murder somebody? I didn't know it was loaded. Well, if you don't know that it's loaded, or whether or not it's loaded, nobody else does either. Now, it is possible for a person to not know that the gun was loaded, but anybody in the right mind that has a gun in their hand needs to know if it's loaded or not, because these are extremely dangerous things. Now, in this particular weapon, this weapon made in Italy, you probably can't see it on here, but there's a little red mark that shows on the top of the gun if it is loaded. But to find out if it's loaded, all you have to do is pull the chamber back, and you'll see, you notice a bullet, our dummy bullet here, popped out. And we see, well, this was loaded, at least with a dummy bullet. But the thing is about firearms, if someone doesn't know it's loaded, why was it cocked, and why was the safety off, and why was it pointed at another person when that supposed accident happened? Not knowing it's loaded just isn't an excuse. It's just not. It's not at all valid. If you don't know that it's loaded, find out if it's loaded, and don't point it at anything that you don't intend to shoot at. Find out if it's loaded. He or she was cleaning the gun, and an accident happened. It just went off, and the person was injured or killed. Well, that's not really true. Guns just really don't go off when you're cleaning them. In order to clean them, any person in their right mind will open the chamber, look down the chamber and make sure that there's no bullet in it. They'll take the gun apart, put a cleaning rod with some oil down in the barrel. But if someone's cleaning it and they don't intend to harm themselves while they're cleaning it, they would never aim it at themselves while they're cleaning it. That just doesn't make any sense. And the sad truth of the story is the victim's family is embarrassed by the fact that it really was not an accident. The person didn't die cleaning the gun. The family doesn't want to say in public, particularly, that it wasn't an accident, it was actually suicide. So when they say the person was injured or killed while they were cleaning the gun, that really does not happen. It was suicide. It was a hunting accident. Really, was it? That's always the story. A bunch of guys are up on a mountain looking for deers or something, and one of them accidentally gets shot. Of course, he's wearing a red vest, so people will see that he's not a deer, but somehow he gets shot anyway. A lot of hunting accidents are really just murder. It's a convenient way to murder somebody, and so unfortunately, the gun went off. It was just an accident and all this, but you got to ask yourself, like, whose girlfriend was the victim messing around with, or who did he rob, or whatever, and what reason did somebody have to getting him out of the way. So many hunting accidents are really murder. Sorry to have to tell you that, but it's very, very, very true.